Paul Bell's environmental psychology stands as one of the earliest attempts to systematize the study of the reciprocal relationship between human behavior and the physical environment. Written in collaboration with Jeffrey D. Fisher and Ross J. Loomy, the book integrates empirical findings, theoretical perspectives, and applied research to establish environmental psychology as an interdisciplinary field bridging psychology, sociology, architecture, and urban planning. Environmental psychology investigates how environmental conditions, both natural and built, affect human perception, emotion, and behavior, while also examining how human activity alters these environments. Bell defines the field as the study of the interrelationship between behavior and the built and natural environment. Environmental psychology is distinct because it treats the environment and behavior as a single dynamic system rather than as isolated variables. This holistic orientation rejects the reductionism of traditional psychology. It focuses instead on context, interaction, and reciprocity. The opening chapter, The Why, What, and How of Environmental Psychology, situates the discipline within the historical development of psychology. Bell traces its intellectual roots to 19th century psychophysics, behaviorism, and Kurt Levin's field theory, where behavior is assumed as a function of person and environment. By the mid 20th century, psychologists began to study how environmental variables such as heat, light, noise, and crowding influence behavior and performance. The rise of ecological consciousness in the 1970s, coupled with urbanization, pollution, and resource depletion, gave the field practical urgency and moral relevance. Bell highlights several defining features of environmental psychology. 1. The study of environment behavior relationships as integrated units. 2. Emphasis on reciprocal two-way effects. 3. A blend of theoretical and applied research. 4. Interdisciplinary appeal. 5. A methodological eclecticism. And 6. A significant influence from social psychology. Methodologically, the field employs both obtrusive and unobtrusive measures, ranging from controlled laboratory experiments to naturalistic observation, archival analysis, and participatory design studies. Chapter 2, Perceiving and Evaluating the Environment, explores how individuals sense, interpret, and emotionally respond to their surroundings. Drawing on James J. Gibson's ecological theory, Bell explains the concept of affordances, the actionable possibilities that environments present to perceivers. Perception is not passive reception, but an active multisensory engagement influenced by distance cues, movement, cultural background, and learned associations. The authors distinguish between environmental aesthetics, the search for beauty, and environmental preference, the search for suitability or comfort, noting that aesthetic judgments depend on complexity, novelty, and coherence. Environmental attitudes, they argue, develop through classical conditioning, that is, association, instrumental conditioning, reward and punishment, and social learning, modeling. However, the link between environmental attitudes and behavior remains tenuous, necessitating strategies that address both simultaneously. In Chapter 3, Theories of Environment Behavior Relationships, Bell synthesizes several explanatory models. The environmental stress model conceptualizes aversive conditions like crowding or noise as stressors that elicit coping responses. Chronic exposure leads to maladaptation or learned helplessness. The arousal theory, informed by the Yerkes-Dodson law, posits that moderate levels of stimulation enhance performance while excessive or insufficient arousal impairs it. Information overload and understimulation theories address the cognitive consequences of too much or too little environmental input, respectively. Adaptation level theory, Woolville, suggests that individuals seek equilibrium between environmental stimulation and internal thresholds. Barker's ecological psychology introduces the behavior setting as the basic unit linking social and physical aspects of environments. Bell integrates these theories to show that environmental behavior is multi-causal, context sensitive, and adaptive. Subsequent chapters apply these theoretical models to specific environmental variables. Chapter 4 examines how noise, temperature, air pollution, and wind influence physiological responses, task performance, and social interactions. Chronic noise, for instance, increases stress hormones and reduces pro-social behavior. While extreme heat correlates with aggression, air pollution affects not only physical health but also cognitive efficiency and mood. Each factor demonstrates the subtle yet pervasive influence of environmental stresses on human functioning. Chapter 5, Personal Space and Territoriality, investigates how spatial behavior reflects psychological needs for control and privacy. Personal space, the invisible boundary individuals maintain around themselves, varies by culture, gender, and situational context. Territoriality extends this principle to larger, stable areas such as homes or offices, representing an extension of the self. Infringement on these boundaries can produce discomfort, aggression, or withdrawal, linking spatial design directly to social harmony and mental well being. Crowding, discussed in Chapter 6, builds upon these ideas. Bell differentiates between physical density, objective space limitations, and perceived crowding, subjective experience. Research on animals and humans reveals that excessive density elevates stress, reduces helping behavior, and impairs task performance. Yet individual cultural differences mediate these effects. Urban dwellers, for example, develop adaptive strategies for managing high density through behavioral and cognitive adjustments. In molding behavior to fit the environment and molding the environment to fit behavior, Bell presents a dual model of adaptation. Humans continuously adjust to familiar and novel environments, homes, cities, institutions, or natural landscapes, through learned behaviors and expectations. Conversely, designers and planners can create environments that accommodate human needs by integrating psychological principles into architecture and urban design. This reciprocity underscores the ethical and practical mission of environmental psychology to improve both environmental quality and human welfare. The final chapters extend the discussion to macro level context. The city analyzes urban life as a complex psychological system where sensory overload, anonymity, and pollution interact with social networks and coping mechanisms. Changing behavior to save the environment directly confronts the ecological crisis, advocating environmental education, reinforcement, feedback, and public policy interventions to promote sustainable behavior. Bell emphasizes that meaningful environmental change requires both structural redesign and behavioral transformation.